Hey, this is Erica at Rainbow Factory, and today we're going to be painting some cute little fall illustrations. I used watercolors. You can use any watercolor set you like, or you could use just some color pencils or just draw them. Either way, they're super cute and it's going to be a lot of fun. So grab all of your supplies and let's get started. Okay, let's start with something easy, shall we? How about a pumpkin? Who doesn't like to draw pumpkins, right? I like to make my pumpkins kind of short and squatty. And the trick to pumpkins is right here at the bottom, we're going to make it come down a little bit. Lower. There we go. A little step. He is given a little side eye and a little sneaky grin. How cute. Let's see, we can take it even further and do maybe a tall, skinny one back here. So I'm going to just draw the basic shape and then I'll come in and do that little trick at the bottom. And we'll just make this a plain one. It hasn't been carved yet. There we go. We want to keep our lines very light, right guys? All right, cute. Now I'm going to grab a permanent marker. So this one is a very fine point permanent marker. It's an inexpensive one from Amazon. You can use Sharpies. Just make sure that it's a permanent marker, okay, or a permanent 10, because if you're going to go over it with watercolors, you don't want them to be washable because then it'll reactivate the paint and make it smear. And we don't want that. All right, so I'm just tracing my cute little guy. Sometimes I like to skip a little bit of space in my lines. It just kind of makes it look sketchy. All right, so some cute little pumpkins. Let's go in and erase our lines. This is why we want our lines very light, guys. You know, I'm always preaching that in class. See, it's like they never were there. All right, let's get some color on these guys. Let's go for orange. I want it to be really transparent, which means see-through. So I'm going to put plenty of water in there. And then I'm just going to lay that in. If I get out of the lines, no big deal. Just a fun little illustration. With watercolors, I don't like to go over where I've already painted very much. I try to kind of paint one area and then leave it be. Let it do its thing. Let's see, with this one, what color should we do? How about a pink? Right? There's no reason why we can't have a pink pumpkin. We're going to make it really light, so I'll put a little bit of white in there. Oh, yeah. Being very careful not to touch that orange because it'll bleed into my pink. Get some green in there for the stem. This is a little too bright green, so I'm going to calm that down with its complement color, which is red. And that'll just make it look a little bit more natural. Again, I'm going to try not to touch that orange too much down there. We'll make this one maybe a little darker. They don't all have to have the same color. Here we go. Now let's do a little splatter. Just because it's fun, why not? Should we paint his eyes in? Yeah, I think we should. Let's do a little bit of black in there. Ah, now they're really popping out. See how that's kind of fading into the orange? Not what we want. We don't want that. So I'm just going to lift that up by blotting. Notice I did not wipe. I only blotted, which means just pat, pat. So I made the classic mistake of being too impatient to let the surrounding colors dry. So I'll let those dry, and then we'll come back and do the black in the eyes and mouth later. Okay, on to the next one. How about some pretty little fall flowers? Flowers are always fun to paint. Let's see. We'll start with some stems. Here, that's cute. Sorry about my noisy tablecloth here. It's cute but noisy. All right, let's see. We're going to kind of give ourselves a little light guideline here. And just do some cute little daisy-like petals just on the bottom. And then the top, I'm going to make it kind of pointy. These are called cone flowers. And just erase that. And the reason they're called cone flowers is because it kind of has a cone shape to the middle. And I like that. I think it's super cute. This one's overlapping this one, so those lines just kind of disappear behind it. We're going to give that middle a cone shape. Maybe erase my little marks there. I like it. Go in and trace. I like to make the front petals a little bit fatter, so it looks like they're really coming out at you. And maybe we'll do some little dots in there too. Coneflowers have really dark centers, and they're kind of spiky, so we'll give them some texture. All right, let's get that stem in there. Cute. I like it. All right, let's erase our lines. So satisfying. Okie dokie, let's get some color on these cute flowers. Let's go for some bright yellow. Ooh, I'm going to show you a little trick. We're going to take some clean water first. Not too much. I'm going to get a little bit of that off of there. And let's just fill in the petals with just some clear water. It's probably hard to see in the camera, but in real life, you can tell where you've painted because it's shiny. All right, we don't want that to dry, so we're going to work on one flower at a time. So those petals are nice and wet, and then I'm going to dip into my yellow and watch this. All I'm going to do is go boop, boop, just right there in the centers, and then I'm going to leave it, and I'm going to trust that this color is going to bleed into the wets. Okay, let's do that on this one. Clear wash. This is called a wash. When we're covering an area with watercolor paint or just clear water. Let's put a little orange in this one, just a teeny bit, so it's a little darker than the other one because, you know, flowers aren't all the same, just like us humans. Maybe I'll even put a little touch of that dark orange over here. Beautiful. All right, let's see. We don't want to do the dark centers. We don't want to paint the dark centers yet because they might touch the wet area here. We don't want that. We already learned our lesson, right? Okay, let's get some green for those pretty stems. We're going to use just the tip of our brush, the tiniest little tip of our brush. Don't push too hard. And then we'll lay that green here, but maybe we'll just do half of the leaf. And half of this leaf, half of this leaf, Doesn't matter which half. We just want some variation in color. So basically that just means we want a little difference. So maybe I'll go in with an even darker green and paint the other halves. And you can tell it's kind of bleeding into that other green, which is fine. We'll just kind of go with it. Let the watercolors do what they do, because greens are going to mix beautifully. This one's a little dark over here, so I can just use a dry brush just to lift it up a little. There we go. How pretty. Okay, you think this is dry enough? Yeah. When you touch it and it doesn't feel damp, you should be good to go. So I'm going to go back up here to our little pumpkin, fill in that eye there with the very tip of my brush. There we go. All right, now that this is dry, we can also go in and do some shadowing. You know, I like to do some shadowing because it makes it look more realistic. So we're just going to go in with a little bit of darker pink and plenty of water so that it doesn't look too harsh, and so that we get kind of that bleeding action that we love out of watercolors. And we have this harsh line here, this really like crisp line, and I don't want that. So I'm going to go in with some clear water and just kind of drag that up a bit so it's more blendy. There we go. We can do the same thing with our little orange pumpkin. I'll go in with some darker orange. Of course, our shadows are going to be more towards the bottom and maybe behind these little raised areas. Maybe a little up here. Blend those out a little bit with some clear water. Notice we use a lot of clear water when we're watercoloring. A few more little splatters. Maybe some green splatters. Oh, I need more paint. There we go. Oh, we need to do some splatters down here too. Gorgeous. All right, less is more when you're splattering. I know it's fun. Okay, so now we're going to fill in these little centers to our flowers. That's a little dark. I still want to be able to see my little dots of pen underneath. So that same trick I'm going to use. I'm just going to go in with a dry brush and just kind of soak it back up. All right. Are you feeling brave? Let's try to do a cute little squirrel. Now, you may have to practice this one a few times. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're just having fun. So to give myself a little guide, I'm gonna draw a very, very light circle here, and then another circle, but larger, kind of right underneath it and even overlapping a little bit. Now squirrels have a cute little pointy nose, right? So we're gonna come off of the side of our circle here, and that's gonna be the shape of the head. So we don't even need this circle anymore. That was just our guide. So I'm just gonna erase that part. Now we can give him a cute little muzzle, maybe a nose. Gotta have a nose. Smile. Maybe we'll even do a cute little pink cheek. That's up to you. All right, he's gotta have some cute little ears. And remember, squirrels have these little tufts of fur on the top of their ears. So we'll put those in there. Okie dokie. How about a little scarf? It's fall, right? It's getting kind of chilly outside. And this is going to be the rest of his body here. kind of like to make it a little squared off on the bottom, just because it looks cute. Let's give him a little shirt, kind of like Winnie the Pooh. Winnie the Pooh's so cute because he's got his little belly poking out of his shirt there. What are we missing? Maybe a little. We'll put some white. We'll leave this white so that it looks like a little bit of white fur on his belly. I'm drawing really dark because I want you to be able to see the lines on camera, but normally I would not draw this dark, and you don't want to either because we're going to erase this. Okay, we gotta have, let's finish his scarf off here. We gotta have a big fluffy tail. How's that looking? Oh, duh, we need some hands, right? Some little cute. Oh, maybe we should make him have a little nut. A little acorn, maybe. Here we go. Oh my gosh, so cute. Let's just trace. Remember, when you're tracing, you're not going to be coloring anything in, okay? We're going to do that with the paint. Okay, we have our cute little squirrel. Let's get rid of those pencil marks. All right, we're done. Okay, this is going to be so fun to paint. Let's start with, let's see, a super light brown. Okay. My paint is kind of puddling up, so that is telling me I have too much water in my paint. So what I'm going to do is just put a little paper towel over it, just touch it, and that paper towel is going to soak it right up. Okay. OMG, that's still too much water. I'm going to leave the cheek unpainted so that after this part dries, we can go in and put some pink on there. If you want to. If you want your little squirrel to have pink cheeks. I think pink cheeks are so cute. Our little characters. Okay, let's give them a nice brown tail. We're going to do just the top part of this tail and leave this little area white. I think. That's my plan anyway. We'll see how it looks. Okay, let's also leave his little belly white right here. Now with watercolors, we know that as it dries, it's going to get a little bit lighter. So this is a little dark here, but I'm going to just wait and be okay with that because I'm thinking it's going to lighten up. We'll see. Now the nut is, it's going to be brown too because, they're brown. So we don't want it the same brown. Let's do a little bit darker so it looks a little different than the squirrel. Fill that in. See how I leave a little tiny bit of space there? Just so those two browns don't touch. Now let's go for an even lighter brown. Like almost not there brown. I'm going to put a little bit of yellow in it to make it almost like peach. And we'll do the bottom of that acorn. Cute. All right. All of this needs to dry because I don't want to go in and paint this with all of that wet paint there. So while that part is drying, this is kind of what we have to do with watercolors. We have to go back and forth between areas. It does require a little patience, and I'm still working on that. Let's go do some little shadows under here. Some darker green. Of course, I put the shadows on the bottom, because the sun is probably up here. Maybe a little bit more black on the bottom part of these centers. There we go. What else can we do while we wait? How about some fall leaves? I'm just going to wing it. I'm just going to paint some fall leaves without even drawing them first. Let's see how good we do. I'm actually not great at drawing leaves, believe it or not. They're hard for me. I don't know why. It's a pretty organic shape though. I'm going to leave a few little parts of the white paper shining through there, almost like highlights. And you know how fall leaves, they have a lot of different like browns and reds and yellows in them as they dry out. Watercolors are perfect for that because we can paint it very watery and then just go in with some darker browns, like some reddish browns, and kind of go just like we did up here on the petals. We can just touch that wet paint and trust that it will slowly bleed into the other color and look super cool. Okay. Now, we'll go back in after this is dry, and we can use our marker right over that leaf. Instead of doing the marker first and then painting over it, you can do it that way too. So we'll see how that turns out. And our squirrel still isn't quite dry, so what else can we do? Why don't we make another little leaf, but at this time we'll make it a green one. Kind of put it maybe back here behind this one. We'll make this one like a straight normal leaf shape. So I accidentally touched a little bit of that red, but that's okay because I think that looks kind of cool. And sometimes we get happy little accidents like that with watercolors, and that's why so many people love them. Maybe we can, it's kind of, everything's going this way with this little vignette. So let's do another something or other over here. How about some wheat? Some little wheat stalks. All right, let's do some splatters. Oh, you know what? Let's do some green splatters. Covering up my other stuff so it doesn't get on there. All right, I think we're good. It's a little wet, but we're gonna go ahead and risk it. So I just wanna give his little muzzle a very, very light brown, so that means more water, less pigment. I also put a little bit of yellow in there, remember, so that helps it look like a lighter brown. Oh my gosh, it's so cute. All right, let's do it up here too. Boom, boom. All right, you know what? I kind of feel like I want that here and here as well, just a touch of it. All right, let's give him some little pink cheeks. Not too pink, just a little bit rosy. What color should we make his scarf? Let's kind of stick with the theme here. Let's do a pink. Same pink from our little Tall, skinny pumpkin. And then I'll just do a lighter pink on this one. Soak that up a little. Adorbs. What color should we make his little sweater? How about green? Trying to kind of stick with the color story here. Yeah. He's ready, y'all. He's ready for fall. He's like, oh, let's do this. Get me a pumpkin spice latte. What color should his little splatters be? Pink? No, that's gonna look like blood. We don't need blood here. Let's do some brown. Just a touch. All right, this is nice and dry, so we'll go in here and just like we did before, but we're gonna flip it. We're gonna do our little outlines. And notice I'm not like perfectly outlining. I'm just gonna kind of purposely do it kind of messy. And that just gives that whole artsy thing. That artsy vibe. There we go. I feel like we need something right in the middle. Maybe some little berries. What color are berries in fall? How about like some sprucey looking, like bluish berries? Yes. Beautiful. Good enough for me. Go in there and a little bit of darker blue, bluish green kind of on the bottoms just to get that shadowy look. All right, and now we're gonna go in with some really dark green and paint these little veins here, kind of purposely sloppy like. And I'll do the same thing to this guy. See, there's lots of ways you can do it. You don't have to always draw first and then paint. You can kind of draw in the middle of the process. I just added a little bit of that color over here just to kind of spread the vibe. Do some splattering here. Beautiful. All right. Here's a little bonus. Why don't we just do some loose, plain water washing, just kind of off in the distance, and grab some pretty sky color. That'll work. And just dot it around here and there. Just to give a little border. Maybe a little bit here too. You don't want to go too crazy with this part, but it is fun to give it just a little extra something. Let's make this look more nighttimey. Ooh, that was a lot of black, wasn't it? Maybe too much. More bright blue over here, and then I think we're gonna be done, guys. A little touch of brown down here just to kind of, you got sky and then some leaves. All the fall colors. And if our water's not too dirty, maybe I'll do a little hint of sunlight here. See, we're just playing. We're not worried. It's just art, right? Cute. I like it. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. I hope you had as much fun as I did. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.